So I'm going to read this little short story, and then if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Ask me anything you like, okay? The story is called Goody-Goody, and this is fiction now. Excuse me. I started working part-time at this dry cleaner's after school, and the girls who had already been working there for a while showed me how they stole from the till. You could only do it with the customers who paid an exact change. They'd give you their slip, you'd get them their clothes, then you'd take their money and say, "Thanks, have a great day." After they left, you'd throw away their slip and put their money in your pocket without ringing up the sale. There would be no record of the transaction at all. It wouldn't have worked if the dry cleaners was on a computer system, but it was an old neighborhood place, and they were still using a regular cash register. "Lorinda is an asshole," one of the girls, Marie, told me. "I've been working here for over a year, and she won't give me a raise. That's why I don't feel bad about stealing from her." Lorinda was the owner. She had hired me, even though I was only a junior and didn't have any job experience except babysitting. When I told Marie that I thought Lorinda was nice, she said, "Don't be such a sucker. She's nice to everyone in the beginning." Marie was in community college. She had blonde, curly hair and was always bragging about how she'd gone out and gotten drunk, then driven herself home. I thought about telling her that I was in the sad chapter at my high school, but I knew she would only make fun of me. I liked the other girl, Heidi, better. She stole from the till too, but somehow she seemed like a nicer person than Marie. Besides working at the dry cleaners, she also had a part-time job at the mall as an assistant window dresser. In the fall, she was going to move to New York City and start school at the Fashion Institute of Technology. On weeknights, I worked with either Marie or Heidi. On Saturdays, we all worked together. Since I was the last one hired, I got stuck with most of the marking in, while Marie and Heidi worked the front counter. That meant I had to tag all the dirty clothes that had been dropped off, then put them in the wooden bin that corresponded to the day the customer wanted to pick them up. I also had to check everyone's pockets. It felt weird sticking my hands in people's clothes like that, especially when I found something. Usually it was just a pen or a tie clip, but on my third Saturday, I pulled out a $10 bill. "Lucky," Marie said. She had just come back to check on me. Then she yelled, "Hey, Heidi, Robin just found $10. Heidi popped her head around the corner. "Cool," she said. "You can buy us some donuts." "I'm going to give it back," I told the two of them. They looked at me. "How do I do that?" I asked. Marie made a face. "Don't ask me," she said, and she went back out front. Heidi was quiet for a second. Then she said, "Put it in an envelope, then staple it to their ticket. When they come in, it'll be right there in the file." "Okay," I said, "thanks." "No problem," she said, and her head disappeared. Later, Marie watched while I put the money in the envelope, then wrote the customer's name, Mr. Brill, on the outside. "Just so you know," she said, "that guy is an asshole." I didn't answer her, just licked the envelope. "He's this grumpy old man who never says please or thank you." "It's still his money," I said. Marie ignored me for the rest of the day. I tried to make friends with her by asking about her classes, but she only gave me boring answers. Then she turned around and acted all fun and happy with Heidi. At lunchtime, she used some of the money she'd stolen from the exact change customers that morning to get food from Burger King. She bought me a hamburger, but I wouldn't eat it. "Jesus," she said, "are you trying to make me feel bad or what?" "No," I said, "I'm not." "Freaking goody-goody," she muttered. Heidi didn't defend me, but she didn't say anything mean either. She just sat at the seamstress's table, popping fries in her mouth. My dad picked me up at 6 o'clock and asked how my day had gone. "Okay," I said. "What's wrong?" he said. "Nothing." "I can't wait to get free dry cleaning," he said. "We're going to save a bundle." He was talking about my new privileges. After my first month on the job, as long as everything was going okay, Lorinda had told me that my family and I could start bringing our clothes in. Both my parents had been wearing dirty suits to work for the last week in anticipation of the big day. At the next SAD meeting, Mrs. Keoghan went over our upcoming activities, then asked if anyone had any issues they'd like to discuss. I raised my hand and said, "I work with this girl who's always bragging about driving drunk. I don't know what I should do about it." Mrs. Keoghan asked if any of the other kids had suggestions for me, And people said things like, invite her to come to one of our meetings, or tell her some statistics, or introduce her to one of the parents whose kids had died from drunk driving. I said those were all good ideas, even though I knew that I wouldn't use any of them. Later, I felt kind of badly. I think I hadn't really wanted to get advice about Marie. I think I just wanted to show off that I knew someone who got drunk. On my fourth Saturday, I went to work with a big bag of my parents' clothes. I assumed I'd be doing the marking in, but when I got there, Marie had taken my place in the back. She said she had a migraine and didn't feel like dealing with customers. Are those your clothes? She asked, nodding toward my bag. Yes. Well, I'll give them to me, she said. That's okay, I said. I can mark them in myself. I was embarrassed because they kind of smelled. Don't fight with me, Marie snapped, and she came over and took the bag out of my hands. I'm not in the mood. But they're dirty, I said. Duh, she said, dumping the clothes out onto the counter. I went out front to help Heidi then. Marie's in a bad mood, she whispered. I nodded. Then Heidi made a motion like she was drinking from a bottle, and we both laughed. What's so funny? Marie called. Nothing, Heidi called back. A second later, Marie came out waving a $20 bill. Look what I found, she said. Where'd you get that? I asked. Your dad's pocket. Give it back, I said, reaching for it, but she pulled her hand away. Finders keepers, Marie said. Marie, Heidi said, not if it's her dad's. Why not? Marie said. Heidi looked at her like she was crazy. Then she grabbed her purse and went outside for a smoke. Marie shrugged and put the money in her pocket. Give it back, I said again, but we both knew that wasn't going to happen. That night, a few of us from SAD went out on a drive-along with the police. That was where you sat in the back of the cruiser and watched the cops pull people over at roadblocks. Only a few kids got to go every year. I won my spot by selling the most t-shirts for Ghost Day, which was when you walked around with white makeup on and remembered people who had died from bad decisions. I'd never really seen a drunk person before, but then the cops started pulling them over one by one. They had to try to walk in a straight line or else touch their fingers to their noses. If they failed, the police put handcuffs on them and drove down to the station. It was strange, but I kept wishing that one of the drunk people would be Marie. Every time the cops asked someone to step outside their car, I waited for the sight of her bouncy blonde curls shining in the moonlight. I wanted her to, pardon me. I wanted her to get in trouble for something. I wanted her to get caught. Not for her own good, but for mine, so I could stop feeling like it was so bad to be a goody-goody. On Monday, Marie and I worked alone together. I did the marking in, and she worked the counter. I liked listening to the sound of the bell ringing every time a customer came in. I liked listening to Marie ask people what their phone numbers were and when they wanted to pick up their dry cleaning. It was a whole other side of her, a polite side. After I finished the marking in, I went out front to help. I was careful to let Marie wait on all the cute men while I took all the older people and tired-looking women. When there was a lull in business, Marie said, "Guess what I did with your dad's money?" "What?" I said. "I got wasted," she said. "Oh." "Then I was driving home," she said, "and some cop pulled me over." I looked at her. I couldn't believe it. "Want to know what he said?" she asked me. "Sure," I said, trying to sound cool. He said, "You've got a busted tail light. I'll let you off with a warning, but you need to get it fixed." I didn't know what to say to that. "I'll never, ever get caught," Marie said. Ever. "It's not just that," I said. "You could get killed." "Nope," she said. "I'll never get killed either." "Do you want to know the statistics?" I asked her. "Nope," she said again. "Well," I said, "there are 2.6 million drunk driving crashes each year." "I told you I didn't want to hear it," she said. "Are you deaf?" "No." "You don't know anything about anything," she said. "I'm in SAD," I told her. "What?" she said. "Students Against Drunk Driving." "God," she said, "you think you're so much better than me." "No, I don't," I said. "I can't stand it," she said. "I wish it was just me and Heidi again." We didn't talk for the rest of the night. A couple of people paid in exact change, and Marie cheered up a little to have the extra money. Then, before we closed, an old man came in. I stepped up to wait on him, but Marie said, "That's okay, I got it." Turned out he was the guy who'd left the $10 in his pocket, the one who never said please or thank you. "Mr. Brill," Marie said to him now, handing over the envelope, "we found this money in your pants pocket." "Oh," he said, "thank you." He opened the envelope, and pulled out the bill. "Well, I'll be damned," he said. Then he looked at Marie and said, "You're a good girl." I wanted to tell him that it wasn't true, that she wasn't good at all, that she was mean and she drove drunk and she stole. But then she smiled at him a little, like she took it as a compliment, and I decided not to say anything. Thank you.